Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you please rise, we'll say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Workman's absent. Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Regola-Dye, would you like to begin this evening?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming this evening, and also thank you to those who are at home watching. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude, and I know the rest of the board feels the same, to the community and our staff for the wonderful, wonderful resilience they've shown through this entire process. And finally, I'd like to say thank you to the community, but also the children. They came to school and did what we asked them to do. And I couldn't be more proud of them and what they've accomplished, even through all of this turmoil and questions that we all have had. So thank you to the children. I still miss them in my teaching career, but I know that our futures are in good hands with them. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
I can't top that, but because I mean, that's the important stuff and the struggles that y'all have gone through to try to navigate through the year. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk a little bit about an experience I have with the High School Athletic Association, but I'll take a subset of that to say how much they stress the importance of our athletic directors and the challenges that they all too face, try to navigate it against late notification from the governor's office and then all the COVID outbreaks and trying to navigate through all that. So hats off to all of our leadership in that arena. Also, another thing, you see Mrs. Carpenter's here. She got to witness this the other day too, when we got a chance to see Mount Vernon play against three super powerful volleyball schools, right? From Cleveland, St. Ignatius to Moeller to Walsh Jesuit. And I mention that because, yeah, they're volleyball powerhouses, but more importantly, their representation of the whole state, and they are in there in complete awe of Mount Vernon's facilities. One gentleman from Moeller, who I had the pleasure of talking to, I said, he asked me, he said, how'd this come about? Pure community effort, right? And so as we were talking, he said, I traveled the world with my son in volleyball, and I've been hard pressed to find anything as nice as this. So, but he also went on to commend the administration and Justin and how he conducts things down there. So I'd like to just bring that up.
Good, thank you. Mrs. Getzman.
Welcome to everybody. We are almost done with the school year, so hats off to everybody. I certainly didn't think in the middle of April, Bill may be getting up early on Wednesday morning to check road conditions, but who knows? Hopefully you can sleep in Wednesday and we don't have to do that. So I was reminded today that our time in the school year is short. So lots of things to accomplish yet, but lots of things to be thankful for this year. So congratulations to all of our faculty and staff. So.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening also, and there are a few notes of congratulations I'd like to say as well. Again, teachers, staff, and students were in the home stretch, so that's exciting. And graduates, we're really proud of you and looking forward to graduation. And I'd like to congratulate the Power of the Pen students. The 7th graders their team came in 4th out of 33 schools, and the 8th graders 5th out of 33. And we had 5 state qualifiers. Lily Grace, Mira Bartel, Elizabeth Liebold, Clara Clarkson, and Laura Page. So congratulations to them. And I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but I thought it was pretty awesome that our senior, Brianna Small, was elected Key Club governor for the whole state of Ohio. So that's pretty significant. And then I wanted to point out that the first week of May is always Teacher Appreciation Week. And this year it's May 3rd through the 7th. And this was begun in 1980 as a national holiday. Not that we get off work or anything, but a national recognition for teachers. And in 1984, it evolved into a whole week so that teachers would have longer to be recognized. And the future depends on teachers is a public service announcement by the Ohio Department of Education and the Teach Association. And some of their comments I'd like to share with you. First of all, they say this is a hero moment for the teaching profession. Teachers have been essential workers during the pandemic and have successfully met enormous challenges as they innovated, improvised, and ultimately rose to meet our new reality. Our teachers are crucial to developing the next generation of leaders who will shape the world. And I guess I just like to reiterate what some of the others have said about our Mount Vernon City school teachers and for their extraordinary efforts during this stressful and uncertain times. And I know I speak on, other board members have mentioned it as well. So we're very proud of you. We're grateful for you and we want to thank you. And for those of you who are listening, please be sure and let our teachers know that you appreciate them the first week of May. So with that, Mr. Cedar.
Great.
I'm sorry, Dr. Bennett, we need approval of our minutes from last meeting yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I just meant, I thought he wanted to welcome, but okay. Will you entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. One of the joys of our job when we get together monthly is to hear about the wonderful accomplishments of our students. And this is especially true in a year like COVID, to be able to bring students back and to be able to share something. I have a commendation that I want to share with you. So Elizabeth, if you could come on up here, we'll try to keep social distance here. Tell you what, I'll put you closer to the board. I'm going to move over here because I got to put my glasses down. I got to get my nose cleared up here a little bit. So it's special right now because Elizabeth is getting a special recognition. And there'll be an official ceremony for her coming up, I think in a couple of days. It'll be virtual. And I know the high school is even planning on sharing a special award or the award you would get at a later time. But because I saw this and was so impressed with it, I wanted to do it in front of the board. So each year, the Knox County ESC asks each public school district in Knox County to submit one nominee from their school to be considered for the Ohio Educational Service Center Association's Franklin B. Walters All-Scholastic recipient. Nominees are selected based upon their ACT, SAT scores, high school academics, school and community activities, and other awards, as well as a brief student essay. The Franklin B. Walters All-Scholastic Award was created in 1990 by OESCA to honor Franklin B. Walter, one of our past Ohio State superintendents, and to recognize one top student scholar from each county in Ohio. Franklin B. Walter served as a state superintendent from March of 1977 up until 1991. Knox County's recipient of the Franklin B. Walters All-Scholastic Award this year goes to our very own Elizabeth Clarkson. So give her a quick round of applause. Daughter of Pauline and Andrew Clarkson. Pauline has joined us. Andrew, I think, is working abroad. And so I know he wishes he could be here. Hopefully maybe he can watch online to see you. Just a quick note here about Elizabeth. She's currently ranked #1 in her class with a GPA of 4.559. Amazing. An ACT of 30 and an SAT of 1380. I found this interesting tidbit about Elizabeth. She has perfect attendance this year as a senior.
I don't know how that happened, but congratulations on that. Elizabeth is a member of the National Honor Society, Keep Club, Jazz Band, participates in debate, cross country, and track, just to name a few. And the list is pretty extensive. Her willingness to become active in the community service has never been more evident than her liaison role with the American Red Cross this year, as she is, quite frankly, the high school blood coordinator for Mount Vernon City Schools. Even during these difficult times of COVID, she has surpassed all expectations. Generally, we would have 3 blood drives throughout the year. She scheduled 5. And she's got incredible participation among her peers. They've already conducted 4 blood drives this year. I think 1 more next week, right? They've currently collected 127 units of blood and hope to top 150 next week. That's almost 50 more units than they've ever really accomplished before. All that to be said, Elizabeth Clarkson is just a model student for Mount Vernon, and we're extremely proud of you and all of your accomplishments. So please join me in congratulating Elizabeth for the franchise. Spot just for a quick second. So I got to read your essay, so I saw that. But if you had to share with the board, just kind of, I know the essay was about your goals as you move into the future. You feel like you could maybe just share just a teeny bit to us so we could.
Sure. So next year I'm planning on going to Grinnell College in Iowa. And I'm hoping to study psychology and math or statistics. And I also hope to stay involved with music throughout college and to stay involved with the community, both like in the college itself and in the surrounding town. And I'm looking forward to participating and becoming involved in the schools and just the overall surrounding community.
Good. So when I looked at Elizabeth's, her essay, I just wanted to remind her here tonight that psychology can work within the school systems. We need great school psychologists. A little plug there. And math teachers, right, Miss Darcy, are just amazing as well. So, kind of keep that on your radar, and we would be glad to welcome you. Board, do you have any questions for Elizabeth?
Yes, we're so proud of you. And
Yes.
I didn't mention you because I knew we were going to do this, but we're very proud of you and so happy that you already have your college plans set, and know mom and dad are very proud of you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, our senior class president. This is Jordan.
So, hello everyone, my name is Jordan Schisler, as you can see up there. I'm the senior class president, and I'm just here to walk you through some of the stuff that's been happening throughout the high school. So we've just entered the beginning of the 4th 9 weeks, which I know a lot of my classmates are excited about. But many of my teachers have been stressing the importance of keeping your grades up, even though it's the end of the year. So trying to fight that battle of not falling into senioritis, which I'm sure Elizabeth's tired right now. But yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap our minds around how much has happened in a year, and now we're almost to the end of this year, just through COVID and everything, how everyone has persisted, faculty, staff, and students. And this week we've also, there's been state testing this week in the high school and last week, so there's been some 2-hour delays, which those 2 hours in the morning allow for testing, and then some students can come in late if they don't have a test. So that's been nice for students that don't have a test. We have most recent student of the month. For freshmen, we have Johnny Askew, and he received student of the month for his positive attitude and supportive interactions with his peers. Sophomore, Lydia McKenzie, she helps her fellow peers in class and works hard academically. Junior, we have Ethan Ritchie, which he excels in band and has constant preparation for band, and he's always willing to give a helping hand. percussion had this like stool that kids would, it was basically to help you play a certain drum, and a kid broke it. And this individual, Ethan Ritchie, he made a stool for us. He made it for us just out of the kindness of his heart. I thought it was amazing. He's a good kid. And then senior, no surprise, Elizabeth Clarkson. You heard a lot about her a few minutes ago, but I work with her in NHS, and she really took up a lot of the slack with the blood drive. So I'm appreciative of that, and she is just always willing to help and serve, and I'm glad to be your friend. Clubs, National Honor Society, as I mentioned, we had a meeting last week and we've elected new officers. So we've been passing the torch down onto the new officers. Just to close out the year, we're looking at, of course, the blood drive we talked about a little bit earlier. NHS is looking to volunteer at a home track meet. And then also helping out with the academic booster flower sale. Key Club has also met recently and elected new officers as well. They're holding a book drive through April for the YMCA preschool, as well as they are taking donations for Teacher Appreciation Week as well. So we're looking, our service organizations are looking to honor teachers through that. And also MVTV has released an episode today, as they do every Monday, and today's episode gave advice about how to get a good night's rest. They talked about the academic booster flower sale, as well as this week's lunch menu. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend it. They have some interesting stuff. Sometimes students on MVTV go out to the community, like they went to, what's that sub shop called? You know, the new sub shop by like We Love Pets. They went down there and they got like a backstage a tour of the sub shop, and they filmed it and stuff. It's really interesting, and I think they do a good job. So, and then we also have sports band and orchestra. So band and orchestra are both preparing for their spring concerts. The band concert is May 18th at 7 p.m. at the MVNU Chapel. Orchestra is April 28th, which I'm assuming it's at the theater like normal. And both of those I'm sure will be live streamed if you're interested in that. Sports, all of our teams have had a really strong start to the season. Boys tennis they have a match like every day this week, so they're very dedicated in their sport. Baseball, just the beginning of this week, they're away versus Madison today and home versus Madison tomorrow. They've had a really strong start to the season. Softball has multiple games this week, but most notably, they have a tournament this weekend at Avon Lake High School. Volleyball has a game this weekend at Hilliard Beaver, and track is away versus West Holmes tomorrow. Especially track, softball, and baseball, they've had really strong starts to their season. Track this past weekend placed first at an invitational, and then also they've had second place finishes recently as well. Softball just always kills it. I'm looking forward to what they complete the season, and then baseball's also had a really strong start. So that's all I have for my high school. Any questions about going on?
Would you repeat the dates again? You said May 28th is a chapel?
May 18th for the band concert at the MVNU Chapel. April 28th for the orchestra concert at the high school theater.
High school theater.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mrs. Nesbitt, do you have anything you'd like to share? Okay, thank you. Mr. Lang? Nothing this evening, okay. We do have two individuals who'd like to speak on public participation. Mrs. Michelle Carpenter, would you like to come up, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Carpenter. I'm the mother of a senior Carter Carpenter. You know, the reason that I'm here, I know that most of the board has received an email from me because I didn't think we were allowed to present, but then finding that we could, I went ahead and kind of put some things together. First of all, I'd like to clearly state for the record that we want exactly what our kids want. We want our seniors to be together. They've had a very tough and very separated year. So of course, we want them to be together. The premise for changing the date of graduation to Saturday evening is not the primary issue. Our concern is the lack of timely and clear communication, the lack of proper planning, the lack of transparency about the decision-making process, and the lack of regard we received from the administration regarding our concerns with this change at such a late date. The most recent email spinning the situation that the date and the time do not really matter and that conflict with dates and times will always occur is very correct and accurate. But when an event has been on the district calendar for over a year, folks have already made accommodations to adjust or move any potential conflicts. We planned for this. One dad talked to me and said that he works Saturday and Sunday evenings. He made arrangements to take Sunday off 6 months in advance. Now he has to go back to try to get someone to try to cover his shift. It's going to be difficult for him at best. Graduation is barely a month away. Graduation plans are not done on a whim the weekend before. The planning process for many of us has been going on probably over 6 months. Securing a venue, reserving a caterer, having announcements printed and mailed. Due to the pandemic restrictions, we've been making plans along with contingency plans, hoping for a sense of normalcy, but preparing either way. When most of the restrictions were lifted regarding in-person gatherings, our plans switched into full mode because we now knew the parameters and we were operating within. Those restrictions were lifted almost 2 months ago. We have parents have been preparing, trying to create something special for our seniors, but based on the recent events, it doesn't seem as if the school administration has taken as much care as we have in formulating plans for the senior graduation. When questioned about the short notice date change, the administration answered that many of us received in a basic form letter response was that they've been sending out a disclaimer in the newsletter since February, stating that the final plans for graduation were still being finalized. Alluding to the idea that final plans will be forthcoming in the newsletter is clearly very different than stating that graduation may not be on Sunday like it has been for the past 50 years. It may be a different day or time that weekend. That information would have been exceptionally helpful in February. Final plans could mean anything. It could mean that it's going to be like last year. It may be at Kenyon, it may be at the stadium. A concise, clear statement that the graduation date could change seems appropriate in this situation. I understand that in February, the restrictions had not yet been lifted. So yes, plans could not be finalized then. But once in early March, March 2nd to be exact, when we were given the green light, why could those plans not be formalized then? I think we can agree on one thing, that we all want our students to have an in-person graduation together. With this change, my weekend has been a flurry of changing plane accommodations with an increase in fare at this late date, reordering graduation announcements at additional cost, rescheduling venues, caterers, in my case, canceling, rescheduling 45 patients in order to prepare for a new graduation party date. The reason I'm here and we're here is to bring to light some serious problems we as parents see with the current administration's efforts in accountability and communication. As we have recreated the timeline through conversation and the email trails, it seems that there may have been some misrepresentation on the part of the administration concerning the impetus for the change. Another accountability issue involves a recent event where material that was presented to my minor child during a school sanctioned conference held on school grounds had not been reviewed by any member of the administrative staff prior to its presentation. The speakers at the conference attempted to assign blame and guilt on my minor child's life based on his home life and the color of his skin. I've yet to receive any feedback over my concerns since my in-person meeting with the administration. I would like to know who is being held accountable and what the plan would be going forward to make certain that this never happens again. So my final questions are, what can be done to increase communication skills and pathways so that a clear and concise message is consistently sent to the parents? I would like to reiterate again, this is not because of a conflict with the graduation party date. It certainly caused us to closely examine the situation, but that's not the objective. Our objective is to bring attention to the lack of accountability and communication from our school administration. We all know that there have been many limitations throughout the entire school year. The pandemic is not new to anyone here. I would think that the goal of an in-person graduation with all students attending would have been in the planning stage since January, with ongoing communication with the students and parents. With that said, those specific goals and plans could have been formulated months ago, presented in rough draft form, and then formalized or presented as soon as the restrictions were lifted. That process of communication would have alleviated all the problems that many of us are experiencing now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. And Ann Burgess, Mrs. Ann Burgess. Oh, I see. Okay. So you didn't want to add anything then? At this time, we will be going into board business. So if you are here for accommodations, you may leave. Feel free to leave at this time.
At this time, I do have a number of additions and or deletions to the agenda. Under substitute employment, section A, you'll see some additions that have been added. Section B, there's also an addition under the certificated staff, head girls basketball coach to be Nathan Short. And then under business services, we have the addition of the legislative liaison report from Ms. Regola-Dye. So those additions to your agenda.
Thank you. And if you'd like to go ahead then on your
Okay,
superintendent.
thank you. I do have, as we've been working through this pandemic, have some updates to share with you relative to just what's going on in the district each month. The first is a kind of a COVID update. We continue to report positive cases that are reported to us. Thankfully, over the past several months, we have seen our numbers stay relatively low. We've seen a little bit of spike here this past month, but as of today, 2:30, we have currently 3 active cases and 1 active staff case. So 3 student and 1 active staff. Since our last board meeting, we did get our second round of vaccinations. And so a large portion of our staff population were able to get that second round of vaccine. So we're continuing to monitor this. We're continuing to follow the right guidance and protocols as we kind of go through. The second update I wanted to share with you is prom. We are planning on prom this year. It was canceled last year. It'll be Saturday, May 8th. It'll be at Ariel Foundation Park. They're looking to use the Schnormeyer Event Center. So kind of a inside outside venue, which is what is being really advocated for. A little bit different this year. Who can attend? They must be a current MVHS student. The MVH student can be from KCC or the Digital Academy. There are no out-of-school students permitted this year. And I will say that's kind of been the general theme from the surrounding districts as well, just because of those numbers. Tickets go on sale April 26th through May 7th. Pre-sale tickets will be $20 a piece. Apparently it includes Mama Lupa's food truck, Troyer's dessert truck, and caricatures for you, your friends, or your date, all included. So I guess that will be part of those festivities. I did want to provide a graduation update. I certainly have become aware that this has become an issue over the weekend and thought I would just share as much information as I have. I know Michelle certainly shared from her heart, and I appreciate that. The high school administration has been corresponding with senior class officers related to graduation in anticipation of the Ohio Department of Health and ODE guidance. One of the primary goals discussed was to provide a graduation ceremony that included the entire class at one time. If you can recall last year, we were forced last year to have split sessions. We made the best of a difficult situation. And so I know through those correspondences and subsequent correspondences with the high school administration, that has been and continues to be a primary goal. And I think that's a goal of everybody as best we can. Knox Health received the Ohio Department of Health guidance relative to proms and graduation requirements on April 11th. Knox Health passed along all of that information to Knox County Schools on Monday, April 12th. And that was guidance that was put out by the Ohio Department of Health, specifically related to graduations and proms. What they said in that guidance, and you can look it up on the Ohio Department of Health's webpage, and you'll even say they've got it dated as of April 14th when the publication came out. So we got it as soon as it was available to us. Outdoor events are preferred with limited seating to provide adequate social distancing. Graduates are to be 3 feet apart. Groups of spectators 6 feet apart. If you happen to go indoors, seating capacity was limited to 25% with the same distance between graduates and spectators. We actually, the high school administration presented to Knox Public Health two different plans, an indoor plan and an outdoor plan. And they gave us maximum capacity. So if we were to be outside at Energy Stadium, the max using both sides of the stadium, not just one, but both sides, was 1,600 spectators. Again, they had to be spaced 6 feet apart in their small groups. If we were to use Energy Fieldhouse, we made a variance and asked for a variance on this. The most they would provide us was 875 total spectators, which was under what we can really do to have a full graduation. They also advocated to provide an online option for those unable to attend, which we were planning to do, and as we did last year. Last year, I already mentioned, we were relegated to an outdoor graduation. We came up with the drive-in graduation and needed to provide 2 ceremonies to accommodate all the graduates in the cars. Realizing that inclement weather could be a possibility, we also provided a rain date last year. With the understanding that the primary goal for the class of 2021 was to have a graduation ceremony with all seniors present at one time, the idea to provide 2 opportunities for the seniors to have graduation all together was discussed with the senior class officers. In order to provide 2 opportunities, graduation would need to be changed to a Saturday with a rain date of Sunday. If both dates incurred inclement weather, we would have no other choice at that time but to go indoors and of course have a split ceremony. When the announcement was made, apparently through an email to parents and to students, move forward to the Saturday graduation with a Sunday rain date, there were some frustrated parents, and understandably so. I think the administration has been focused on trying to provide a unified graduation, and quite frankly, and will admit to, failed to think about the impact a Saturday graduation would have on others. So where did we go from here? Mr. Will sent out a survey today detailing multiple options. The survey is kind of listed there on the right. And he kind of went through the reasoning why he had determined, or that when he met with the class officers, that they were looking at some different options. As of before coming here, this particular survey, Sunday, May 23rd at its regular time, there were 79 students that preferred that option. The Saturday, May 22nd option at 7 p.m. with the rain date on Sunday was 67. And then there was an option to just say, you know what, let's just go split sessions, go inside. We won't worry about any weather. Obviously, those there were only 9 folks who thought of that option. So all things being considered, I think based upon some feedback that was presented again over the weekend, he decided to do a more formal survey relative to this. So I guess hearing that, I'm just interested in the board's thoughts relative to graduation, realizing that certainly not taking into consideration parents and their plans is a fault of ours administratively. But then again, how do we move forward? I mean, I'm just going to be candid. The easiest thing to do would be to just have 2 split sessions indoors. I don't have to worry about weather or anything. However, we want to honor the students' request to have 1 graduation. We could certainly stay with our Sunday graduation. And, you know, if we determine by a certain time, 10, 11 o'clock, that the percentages of showers is just too great, we got to go inside to split sessions, then we just take our chances and we get 1 real opportunity for an all-in graduation. Or like what has been discussed, the 2 opportunities, but it causes consternation on other ends as well. And I think that was certainly an unanticipated consequence of that discussion.
Was this survey sent to senior students only?
My understanding it was sent to, is it sent to parents too, or just seniors?
I'm sorry, what was that, Michelle? Parents also?
Do they have to describe themselves as parents or students? So we don't know if it was a student who responded or a parent who responded? Okay.
Personally, as someone who's been overly cautious, as you know, with COVID, I would prefer having Sunday split sessions indoors. Eliminates a lot of problems to me.
I kind of like the idea of having it Sunday outdoors and doing what you said. If it looks like showers, then we would have to move indoors and have split sessions, and everyone would be aware of that. Which is what we've typically done. We've had
That's
to,
true.
I know when my daughter graduated, we were outside and then it started to rain and we had to move
That would
into
be
the gym.
horrible.
It was awful because it was so humid. It was like you were in a steam bath. So,
You know, the only difference I would say between then and now is we can't go indoors and take everybody indoors.
right, it would
If
have
we
to be.
could take everybody indoors, trust me, we would be celebrating in Energy Fieldhouse with all students. And, you know, we talked to our chief and they make variances for special events. I mean, our facilities like Energy Fieldhouse or even the CAT wasn't built for 3,500 people, but for special events, they can make a special variance. Obviously, because of COVID and meeting with the health department, we couldn't even get closed. We had tried actually to see if we could get a variance to get everybody inside at 4 to a family. And it just, it wasn't going to be an option this year.
If we go inside for a split session, so are we saying 2, 3, or 4 per student?
It's my understanding that I believe they could get 6, but I would need to double check on
Inside?
that. I believe if we go split sessions.
Okay.
Does that sound accurate?
Outside and 4.
I think it's 4 inside. Okay, it could be. It could be. Does that sound, Darcy? Darcy's giving me the, yeah, Bill. 6 out, 4 in? Okay. Well, with 875 participants
I didn't know if
inside,
that included the students and all of your auxiliary personnel or not.
yeah, it was my understanding that did include everybody,
Okay.
All in.
Yeah, then, yeah.
All in.
all in, all in.
Okay.
Now, the tough side with, we're all somewhat accustomed to traditional graduations outside. And, we would just face one direction, the home bleachers. Because we'd have to use both sides, you would have to imagine now placing the podium and the risers and everything in the end zone so that both the home and the visitor stands could all be focused on the stage there. The kids would actually be on the field in chairs. We did talk about positioning it actually towards the baseball end of the field so that we could use this scoreboard and, highlight people as they're getting their diplomas. But in reality, if you think about being in a seat towards the concession end, you could be pretty far away, and again, that therein lies a little bit of the challenge.
Yeah.
As much as last year we didn't really want, the upside to that unique arrangement was every parent got to be in the front row to see their child walk across. But so now apparently this graduation survey is up through Wednesday. My sense is that I believe it's probably going to stay in that kind of middle range. I mean, I don't think you're going to find, while we can kind of say, hey, it would just be easier to do a split session, I don't think that's what the graduates want. And again, knowing that that's probably not what they want, you want to try to give them every opportunity to get what they want. If we keep it on Sunday, we just got to hope and pray the weather is great on Sunday.
We still have that option of going split session if the weather.
Well, we have to, yeah, because we're gonna graduate the kids. So yeah, we would definitely be going inside.
But inside would actually allow for a closer view of the student, correct? Versus being on this.
I guess we usually don't necessarily open it up to the public, but would an inside option be, what do you all think about that? Okay.
They've been split up this whole entire year. They can't go watch each other play sports. They couldn't go to football, couldn't go to basketball. It's just, look, couldn't go to forum show, all of this stuff has been limited, that they have not shared their senior year together at all. So why can they not at least see their friend and walk across the stage and get their pull up, even if it is from a distance? It's better than
Oh,
nothing.
yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I got to be honest, I think that was the mindset of the high school administration, was to provide every opportunity. Now, whether we communicated it right or didn't do a good job, certainly that can be up for debate. But I think that was the mindset going in. How can we provide enough opportunities so they can have this all in graduation? And I think the thought was, as they talked, was Saturday night. If it doesn't work Saturday night because it's rainy and yucky on Saturday, maybe it'll be nicer on Sunday, but maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know.
Wait a day. Plan for every contingency, including sleep.
Well, and it might be just as easy to just say, we're staying with our Sunday graduation. And if the weather is what the weather is, we can't control that. And we just have to make a call at a certain time. I never want to have it happen where you go out and it starts to rain. So, you know, there's a
All
lot,
wet, yeah.
there's a lot of preparation that goes in just stage development. So you almost have to kind of use your weather channel apps and all that and say, okay, what's the percentage of rain at X, 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 and X, and make a decision and just kind of live with it, I guess.
I agree with what's been said here about try our best to have it on Sunday and make that call if we have to make the call. And fortunately for us, if we have to, we'll go into a pretty nice facility to be able to at least do it. We have a place to fall back to. Hopefully we won't have to. So.
Sounds good to me.
And it will be videoed, right?
Oh, yeah,
Be live.
it'll be live. It'll be live.
So even if we went to 2 sessions, you could watch. It wouldn't be the same as being in person, but at least.
And that's
they'd be
what we
able
did
to
last
see.
year as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I let the high school administration know that we would be sharing our conversation tonight. They may be watching. But I can certainly go back and share the board's interest and discussion in the topic, and we need to be very timely in our communication.
Absolutely.
I will honestly say that, and I know what you had said, Michelle, about March 3rd and the governor lifted some things, but we have not gotten guidance on proms and graduation. And it just came out, and they were planning certain things and different scenarios. And then when we got kind of shot down about having all students inside, it started to take on a different conversation.
We knew that there were going to be a lot of changes and a lot of differences. I'm a planner. I plan my life 6 months in advance. I have to have things planned. And so knowing that it was not going to be your typical graduation, we should have explained the motion. And if we would have known in February, a lot of people know in February, hey, we have these options that we're thinking about, which we should have been thinking about. Well, we need to change the graduation. That changes the whole scenario. That's my concern. Because we know it's not the same. This didn't happen last month. This has been going on for a year. So we have to plan for contingencies. And I'm just a little frustrated that I don't think that we put enough time into that planning process. Really thinking about how we can help our seniors.
All right, I appreciate that.
Now, a question, flipping from graduation to prom, because we are outside, is there a mask mandate for the kids because they're in an outside facility? Do they still have to be masked during that time?
It's my understanding they still have to be masked, provided if they can keep some level of distance, but I think the ideas are going to have to be masked. Say it again.
Okay.
Oh, their prom ticket is a mask? Oh.
That's cool. I like that.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right. Last thing I had on my board update for you tonight is 5th grade outdoor education. We are moving forward with that. We're going to have all 5th grade students in Mount Vernon, including our DA students, invited to outdoor ed. It will not be an overnight They're not allowed to have overnight venues at this point, but we will be doing two full day trips. Dan Emmett, Pleasant, and Twin Oak will be doing Monday and Tuesday, May 10th and the 11th. And then Columbia East and Wigan will be going on Wednesday and Thursday, the 12th and 13th. It will be at Heartland Camp. They're going to have a science track and an adventure track. There'll be 4 activities for the day. They'll depart Mount Vernon after about 9:30, actually, after breakfast, and they'll return at approximately 6 o'clock. They will get breakfast here at school. We'll have packed lunch when they go out, and there'll be a snack about 4 o'clock so they can have their trip coming home. And we are providing a camp T-shirt this year with the class of 2028. So we want to try to get back to as many normal things as we can. So that's the board update.
And that's a great opportunity for our students. I was very impressed with Heartland last year when my husband and I came out. That was a very neat program.
And I did share that link for you inside the update itself. The other item for information there, place these wrong on the agenda. These board policy previews. I know this is, as we've had some change in central office, understanding that we do these every, we have a 2-month reading on these. Tonight is our first reading on these board policies. Next May, this coming May, we'll have our second reading. So again, to all board members, feel free to go in, click into the policies. You can see what the corrections and the changes are. And we'll come back together relative to that. Other than that, we have no board items for approval in this superintendent section. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, under curriculum, the success for this week, I'd like to just talk about 2 of them. Number 4 is entitled Minnesota Teachers Showcase Project-Based Learning and Virtual Exhibition. And the teachers wrote that the pandemic caused them to shift to a virtual environment, a virtual exhibition of their 7th grade science students projects that demonstrated project-based learning, and that remained powerful even during the online setting. And the district had adopted a profile of graduation a few years ago, and this profile designated skills that all graduates should have, including creativity, communication, and collaboration, among others. And to support that initiative, the middle school created an exhibition night at the end of each semester to showcase personalized learning and interdisciplinary projects. And the students had the option to choose a project, whether they would participate as an individual or whether they would be in a group. And the capstone event was to feature 3 essential elements. The first was professionalism. They were to conduct research like a historian would, and they were to use math to solve real world problems. Those were 2 examples. Secondly, it was a single driving question that they were supposed to answer, such as an open-ended question, such as, how does my brain health affect my ability to think, learn, and respond? Might be a question they would answer. And then the third was public exposure, and they wanted the students to have awareness of the value of their work, and to not just have parents come, but also community and local professionals. And so they engaged local professionals to in the feedback process at the midpoint and then at the end. And they felt like that was very successful. The first exhibition was in person, and that worked very well. But during the pandemic, they were surprised at how smoothly it went, and that some of the parents even commented that it worked better for them because of their schedules and they were able to view it. So what did the teachers learn? They learned that a single project run by 1 or 2 teachers was really ideal. If they had more teachers than 2, it was just too difficult to coordinate. It made it too complex, and also having smaller smaller teams, can't read my writing, was also more effective and efficient and resulted in a faster decision-making during the planning process. So those were some things that they learned as a result of that process. And then number 5 is about intensive tutoring. And this article points out that it may help students who are behind, and that this is the emerging as the leading solution to help students recover learning that has been lost during the pandemic. And one recent study of high school students found that those who had daily at-school tutoring by recent college graduates learned 2 to 3 times more math. And then in the Hetchener report, the strongest research evidence points to an intensive type of tutoring, and they call it high dosage, and that's produced big achievement gains for students in studying where tutoring occurs every day, not just once a week, or almost every day, and that the tutors were to be specifically trained and coached and to adhere to a detailed curriculum and work with just 1 or 2 students at a time during the school day. And the best results, I said, as I mentioned, were during the ordinary school day. And there's a paper that's been published in March 8th of this year. And it's entitled "Not Too Late: Improving Academic Outcomes Among Adolescents." And it supports some of the research that shows the gains that were made by secondary students, and that elementary students tended to, if they were kindergarten or first grade, the gains were greater for reading, but from grades 2nd through 5, that the greatest gains were from math tutoring. And that the high school students gained, if they started school as a 9th grader with a 7th grade math level, that they were brought up to 9th grade by the end of the year. So I thought that was pretty significant. So any questions? Okay, thank you for listening. And my computer just went off, so. We have some items for.
We have a number of items recommended for board approval tonight. The first is a proposal. It's kind of a reintroduction of a proposal from last year. It's for educational tours, the Discover England trip. We had a number of students who plan to go that now cannot, obviously. They did extend that trip into a new calendar year. And Mrs. Keaton is proposing that trip would take place on June 2nd through June 12th. I think currently they have 5 students who kept their vouchers from a year ago and would like to go. The challenge that we all face right now is, will there be a trip on June 2nd? And nobody can predict what that looks like. They're obviously planning on that as they move forward. And so we have to be cognizant of what comes of that. I know there is right now a charge to see if there is anyone else who might be interested. It's our role, I believe, as a district to make sure we clearly let parents know the challenges that come when you put money up for such a trip. Generally, trip tours like this like to give you a voucher for your money. And so a voucher means you've got to find another opportunity to go. Well, these trips are not inexpensive. This trip here is about $3,900. It's a great trip. It would be a great trip, but if it for some reason can't happen, parents need to understand that getting your money back, you're probably going to lose some of it. For sure, $95, probably another $350, and you just have to be willing to take that chance. So I think as long as we make sure that that's well known, I certainly want those kids that tried to go last year who are trying to use these vouchers again, the opportunity to use them. And we'll see what June brings.
I would entertain a motion then to approve those two items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola Dye. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any questions?
Yes, I have one. Our decision to do or not to do this would also rely heavily on the health department and CDC guidelines. And if they say no international travel, then
Sure.
Well, obviously, parents have the ultimate decision on whether they want their children to go. As far as the EF tours, they're going to look very carefully at the countries that they're traveling to and what is their travel warning at this time. I think in their tour promise, if it's a travel alert of a 3 or a 4, then they would potentially cancel or reroute that trip. And the refunds, when they do that, is a little bit different than if you pull out, right?
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes,
Mr. Thompson. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Fiscal Services.
Keep scrolling. This month always looks a little unusual, but this board's been around long enough that you're probably used to it, in that, we get tax advances. And then this time of year comes, we get our final tax for the first half, and we also pay our fees out of that. So you'll see some reductions in the general property real estate tax. Money goes from there to PI, it goes to pay the fees, it goes a variety of places. So that's just something that we don't see very often that I wanted to point out. And the rest of it is very boilerplate. So unless you have any questions about that, we'll continue. You can see our interest for this year, this fiscal year to date. We've talked about this many times. We're still doing well, but we're going to struggle to reproduce 19 and 20 because we were sitting on a very large donation from our community. And we were able to invest that while we built the field house that Mr. Thompson has already mentioned earlier this evening. So we're doing well, but not as well as when we had that money in the bank, but we have a beautiful facility. Continue on, you're used to seeing this as well. We've had to withdraw some of this money for operating purposes from our investment, but if Mr. Sheeter continues to scroll, you will see what I mentioned to you. We are now investing a portion of our health insurance fund. The district is self-insured, as the board knows. We do use, Medical Mutual as sort of our administrative team, but we decided to invest some of those funds. We've just got that started, so we're only seeing a $21 growth at this point, but hopefully that will change. They take their fees up front, so. But this is exciting for me because obviously health insurance isn't getting any cheaper. And we're having those discussions now about the renewal, and any money we can make going forward is going to make those conversations easier. Do have an amendment, an appropriation amendment. As you know, we appropriate money at the beginning of the year. We can't spend any money that we haven't appropriated. So near the end of the year, sometimes our guesses weren't as good as educated guesses weren't as good as we had hoped. So we're appropriating a little more money in a couple of areas, and you can see the date of tonight's board meeting, and that's where the appropriations are changing slightly. Some of that is a blessing because we got more money than we expected from federal grants, but I obviously need board approval to spend that money. So that is it in terms of the report, and I can do the reading at the pleasure of the board in terms of if there's questions or not.
Any questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we've got several donations. We have a donation from the Printing Arts Press of office supplies valued at $600 to the district. We have a donation from the United Methodist Women of miscellaneous clothing and school supplies to Dan Emmett Elementary School. We have a donation from the Mount Vernon Christian Men's Prayer Group of miscellaneous clothing and school supplies, also to Dan Emmett Elementary School. We have an anonymous donation of $500 for school fees to Dan Emmett Elementary School. We have a donation from the Gay Street Methodist Church of sweatpants and several pairs of shoes, headphones, and colored paper to Pleasant Street Elementary. Paragraph Bookstore donated 21 books valued at $335.36 to our elementary libraries. And we have a donation from Cal Albeck, Joan Fithian, and Mary Regola Dye of 4 children's library books in memory of Dirk Parker, former student advocate of Pleasant Street Elementary. And obviously those will go to Pleasant Street Elementary. So that is our donations for this month.
Thank you for that report. And I would entertain a motion to approve those items. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Gaston. Were there any questions about any?
No questions, just one comment on the donations to Pleasant Street from Cala, Joni, and I. One of those books is called Grumpy Monkey. And it is not just great for children, but great for adults. I really related to it. So, thank you.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And Mr. Gulladye, you're up for legislative liaison.
Thank you. I'm just going to focus on mainly the financing, the HB 10. The House Finance Committee accepted a substitute version of that, which makes operating appropriations for fiscal years 2022 and 2023. It includes the Fair School Funding Plan, which originally was HB 1. And then the Senate Finance Committee held an informal hearing on HB 110 with the State Superintendent, our State Superintendent DeMario, providing proponent testimony. And then I was looking through the OSBA comparison document outlining the education-related changes. And a few of the highlights from the bill are it replaces the Ed Choice Scholarship Program, prescribes a unique base cost per pupil for traditional school districts. And the base cost includes state and local shares amounts to an estimated $10.9 billion in each fiscal year. The statewide average base cost per pupil is estimated at $7,202 per pupil. The bill would also affect career-based school financing. Another fiscal effect would be basing the funding on students enrolled rather than where the students reside. And under these conditions, the districts whose student count decreases as a result would, with all circumstances being equal, look wealthier on a per pupil basis, and it could result in reduced state funding. There would be changes also in gifted funding, as well as it could reduce school district flexibility in spending that state foundation aid. Preschool special education payments are also affected, as well as student wellness and success funds and STEM school funding. The bill would also establish a program to distribute bus purchasing grants, and it would also create a 19-member school funding oversight commission to oversee the new K-12 formula for the funding of our great public schools. And there was so much in that comparison. OSBA is just terrific in that. And you can find that link in there if you're interested in delving into more of that information. So anybody have any questions or ideas to send to state?
I think we need to read it more than once. I read it and afterwards I need to read it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I went to the bold
Mhm.
printing after a while. So thank you.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Thompson is going to give us Ohio High School Athletic Association update.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna peel this off.
Hey, go ahead.
Sorry. Because my glasses will steam up too. So appreciate the opportunity just to share. As you know, this is kind of a first event for, I think, anyone, at least from Mount Vernon, to participate in the OHSAA, OSBA joint meeting. There's 13 people or 12 people involved, led by Rick Lewis and 2 people from OSBA, meeting with Doug Ute, who is the executive director of OHSAA. Doug was representing the organization by himself, which has currently 19 staff members who are in OHSAA. To give you an idea of the other board members, representatives from Trumbull City, Trumbull County ESC, Southwest City School Districts, Berea City, Ross Local, Cleveland City, Cary Schools, and Mad River Local. When I opened up this, earlier, I mentioned one of the things that Doug, you wanted to express was, and he said it over and over, and even if you were to look at the minutes, you would see it's thank you, thank you, thank you, because of the chaotic nature of trying to just get all of these events organized, supporting the athletic directors. He reported that about 95% of the games scheduled of the schools with games scheduled during the winter was still able to have them. So that's quite a success. And so he was really wanting these members to come back and reemphasize the success, but yet the struggle to get there. So to that. He also pointed out that, in winter sports, it was restricted to 4 attendees. And he said, we should be appreciative that spring sports is affording 10 attendees now, which is a relief. But I guess, back to maybe some of the conversations we've had here thus far about trying to plan ahead. I think we all get it. We're all frustrated, no matter what it may be. But as Doug Ute said, he didn't know what was coming until the governor announced it. And many people thought that he had some inside track. But even though he was well connected with the lieutenant governor even said up until the moment that the governor went to the podium, he didn't know exactly what the governor was going to say. So everybody was in that reactive mode, thus for the big challenge to the ADs. So I'll touch on a couple other things. This meeting was 1.5 hours long. I really am trying to condense it, and I won't do it all justice. But the primary discussion was just the sheer financial impact that OHSAA this COVID has had on it. But he qualified that too by saying this dates clear back to 2002, and he brought some statistics about the erosion of the revenue to OHSAA through the lack of ticket sales, which makes up 80% of their revenue. Another 10% is from just sponsorships, and the remaining 10% is in other various forms. So they've been in cost-cutting measures for quite some time, but he's not been in there but just a few months. And so he's recognizing firsthand, you keep doing what you've been doing, you always get what you've been getting. And so he gets it, and he's trying to figure out a new method. I think some of those methods are scaring some of the ADs that, oh no, here comes fees to the schools and charges, which is most definitely being discussed. But as I listen to what some of the proposals are, which are more like it's based on the amount of programs that your school offers. So as an example, these are not numbers, they were just examples. So if $100 is it that OHSAA gets per sport, then if Mount Vernon had 10 sports, they would pay that amount of money for those 10 sports. But if some other school has more, that's what they pay. So it's all per that. So these are thoughts, they're not confirmed yet, but it's what they need to do. Another big cost-cutting measure that quite frankly, COVID forced them into, but probably has helped them identify, is the fact that, we think of the Hall of Fame as where you play football. Jesse Owens Stadium is where you go for track. And then the Shot for basketball and so forth. Those are very expensive venues to rent and to use. And so COVID forced them into more regional at high schools. And they're considering trying to figure out how to have some regional events in a promotional style with some of these universities, some of these colleges that could help as a recruiting tool for them as well. So they're really trying hard. I was really impressed with with what I heard. But again, trying to come up with a new revenue structure is their main thing. I talked about emerging sports. Mount Vernon made the comment, one of the most emerging, greatest emerging sports is girls wrestling. And then he pointed out that one of the leaders in girls wrestling is the coach at Olentangy, who's from Mount Vernon, right? And so we got some accolades there. Boys volleyball, esports have not quite figured that one out, but yet it's made it into the college levels and so on and so forth. But just as this is as a final comment to put things in perspective, when Doug Ute spoke about dating back, here's some statistics. In 2002, again, ticket sales being one of their main fund thing, revenue. In 2002, in football, through regional and state tickets, right? Regional and state football playoffs, they had 797,000 plus people attend. By 2010, that had dropped to 483,000. And in 2019, it had dropped to 363,000. So you wonder that huge decline from 2002 to now, and their whole revenues based on that. Basketball dropped 52% as well, over that same time period. So sorry if I took up too much time, but it's just, it was fascinating. I was appreciative to be able to listen to it. Again, the purpose of it was really more to just have a joint sharing. But I could tell that it was really more us hearing, and you kind of alerted me to that, hearing what Doug Ute had to say, and he had a lot to say, had a lot of concerns. So.
We'll say it's nice to have you on that board, Mr. Thompson, and I know you'll represent us well. And even our own thing, I know Gary and I have had many conversations. We're a microcosm of what's going on there. Our athletic departments and athletic departments across the state. I mean, our athletic department is really primarily run on revenues from contests. And when those contests are limited, like they have been here recently, it definitely impacts that revenue stream. So I understand where ADs might be, but to have a group like the OHSAA as a governing body for high school sports, it's just really important that we have that entity. And if it means supporting them a little bit more, and the fees that I was hearing was anywhere from $1,200 a year to maybe $2,000 a year to be a member with a fee. I'm going to tell you, you can get into a wrestling tournament or maybe another event where you have to go pay, and you might have entry fees that are darn near close to $800. So we're not talking a monumental change, but we want to keep the OHSAA as a governing body in Ohio.
I might build on that one a little bit. Probably the only comment that came from the board members back was, could that decline be linked to an increased amount in tickets that families couldn't afford to take a whole family in, right? So that did come up. But if that could be offset through other things, such as those fees, that makes it affordable for families to be able to get into those events. That whole financial analysis needs to be done. So I appreciate that.
I think the other thing you're going to see that COVID brought to the table is you're going to see more televised events. Yeah. Now there's a revenue stream that could be gained through televised events. But when you would go to the old state football playoffs for the basketball play, it wasn't on TV. You had to go to the venue. COVID has forced that to now be a subscription kind of a thing. And they are probably going to have to figure out how to monetize that if indeed enrollment will drop.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Thompson is representing the Central Region, so we're very proud of you for having that position. And Mrs. Rose, Student Services.
I have just one item for your approval tonight, and that is parent reimbursement. If the district is unable to provide transportation, then this is a backup for us.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that item.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. And were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And we now have certificated staff.
Under our personnel, certificated and licensed staff, no items for information tonight. Number of items, very traditional kind of items for board approval. The employment of substitute teachers, home instructors, and some contracts. We do have one job share that we were to share with you. And we have a number of resignations tonight and retirements. I will make note of a retirement here, Jerry Klinger, who has spent a great deal of time right here in this building, just next door. Will sorely be missed as a phys ed teacher. And so will Becky Kronk as an ELA teacher at the middle school. So those two will hopefully get to celebrate their retirement, maybe in May.
I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any questions?
I just noted on the presented earlier was a list of amendments. And the last name on that amendment was a Janet Stutz. But it is not on the,
Oh, it didn't get moved down to here?
not get
I'm
moved down.
sorry. That's a good point. So let's go up and double check that to make
the others are
sure.
there, but I didn't see that one.
So we had an addition to the agenda, and
Right
so
there.
you're saying
Janet Stutz.
right here?
No, it would be, yeah, there's our addition, deletion, substitute employment.
So none of these were on there at all?
They are on there, just Janet is not.
Right. I noticed that.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, she's the only one not on.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and make sure that we put that in the record, and you're approving Janet Stutz as well. And she was in this section, or wasn't down here in this other section,
No.
was it?
Oh, yeah, there she is. She's
Yeah,
substitute.
I think
custodian.
that was
Okay.
for the other
All right,
category.
thank you. Sorry about that.
I was gonna say, I don't see it under additions and deletions on the printout, but
Yeah, I think
Okay.
probably could have categorized that
Okay.
as to what section it
My
was in.
apologies.
No worries.
any other questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we are to
Okay.
classified.
And under classified staff, no items for information, several items for board approval. We have a transfer, number of items for employment from a substitute. And then here we are again, we've got retirement of Donna Smith, who's at the high school, food service, and Charlotte Hellwig, who's a bus driver, who also retired. We have one resignation, and you'll see our summer work crew. Those items for your approval.
We would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And if there's nothing further, we would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of, it's not underlined, but it should be.
And employment.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. And would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes. Motion carried, and we are going into executive session. Thank all of you for coming.
Thank you.
And there will be no action taken after the executive session.